The Western Cape is dealing with its own alcohol abuse nightmare. The provincial government is hoping to introduce regulations aimed at curbing alcohol abuse. The Western Cape Community Safety Department proposed amendments to the provincial liquor regulations, including tightening operating license application processes and targeting illegal outlets. The department is currently hosting hearings before the public participation process draws to a close later this month. Western Cape community safety figures show some startling statistics. The department maintains that the estimated loss to Treasury due to alcohol abuse is to the tune of 165 or to 236 billion rand. 70% of crimes in communities is linked to substance abuse. 67% of domestic violence in communities is alcohol related, while 70% of trauma victims in their hospitals test positive for alcohol. Between 18 and 26% of grade 1 learners in high-risk communities show signs of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, and 35.2% of Western Cape learners in grades 8 to 11 binge drink more than in any other province. And joining us on the line, Ashley Potter, Director for Cape Town Drug Counselling Centre, and Commissioner Buyiselo Botha, Commissioner for Gender Equality. Thanks so much for joining us, Ashley. Just the startling statistics that we are going through there, it seems that this is a perennial problem. Yes, it may not be unique to the Western Cape, but the Western Cape is still on top of the list. What do you attribute this to?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to a bit of education at community level. One of the challenges we are facing is that families don't realize that there is protective orders that can assist them, and there is help for them as codependents, and living in that environment don't have to be an ongoing norm for them. We encourage parents, families of those that are struggling with substance abuse or alcohol abuse to come and see us at centres like the Cape Town Drug Counselling Centre or even SANCA, SADC. There's lots that is available to offer support to them, but educating parents, families, communities about the illness and the effects of those abuse, the substance abuse of alcohol is vital.
All right, but let's look at other interventions as well when it comes to the trust deficit between authorities, the police and the communities. You were saying that, the education is one aspect, but this needs to be a multi-pronged approach. If you say that there are centers of help and that parents can report on drug peddlers and drug lords, what is the level of trust, though, that they have in the police to trust that they will be protected in such an event?
Every precinct would have its own level of commitment to community, and there's a strong engagement from the supply reduction to help ordinary citizens to understand that police is there to engage and to assist. From the higher office or ranks in every precinct, there is a strong intention to address substance abuse or domestic violence, because most of our domestic violence stems from the abuse of alcohol. I think the trust factor comes over repeated assistance from the South African Police Service. Our stance is that we do not want to punish users. We instead want to find resolves to assist them, to get them into treatment processes, to help them understand that they can regain control of their lives, which is at the moment out of control. So I would say absolutely there is a need for SAPS to also come down and be amongst people so that they're not seen as just a punitive law enforcer.
Yeah, please stay on the line, Ashley. We'll take callers on this matter on 011-542-2186. Looking at the scourge that's gone to epidemic proportions in terms of substance and alcohol abuse, in particular in the Western Cape and many of our communities, and how this fuels and perpetuates the level of domestic abuse, violence and drug-related crimes that we see as well. Ashley, while we have you on the line, maybe you can give us a sense of whether there has been an improvement over the years. And of course, certain communities are more endemic, or rather, create an environment where these kind of drugs and alcohol abuse happens primarily in black townships and colored communities. And this also happens intergenerationally. I mean, if the parents are not present or the parents themselves are users, this leaves the children to their own volition, which is setting them up to fail.
which stems from the whole concept of poor family values or a lack of family values. Also, a big challenge with what you have just mentioned is the reality that there is a vast majority of our population that is a working community, and their kids are then left for their own volition to do things that others in their peer context draws them into. We do see this as a common trend, and it needs to be redressed. I think the big challenge, which you mentioned in the previous show, was related to the liquor tribunal and the fact that advertising of liquor outlets and liquor use has been glamorized. Social engagements at social functions with families is also not almost as glamorous if there is not alcohol. Any sport event is also just sold with alcohol, and it leaves our young people to understand or accept the norm that is what needs to happen with any social engagement, which is not necessary.
Yeah, actually, stay on the line. We have Commissioner Mbuyiselo Botha, Commissioner for Gender Equality. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Botha. We're just talking on the startling statistics coming out of the Western Cape, but we know that it's not unique to the Western Cape. They just happen to have higher cases of substance and drug abuse, and especially when it comes to the absence of parents in guiding children, and the fact that some of these communities, have subhumane conditions where it's overpopulated, there are no opportunities or recreational facilities, etc., etc. How then do you even begin to tackle this epidemic problem?
Well, I think, Cindy, you're correct in that it's a multifaceted type of a problem. I mean, coming here, I was talking to our office of the Commission for Gender Equality in the Western Cape, where you'd find that, in the farm areas, where in the urban areas, the dynamics are different. Where in the farm areas, young kids, the focus is on, they get into alcohol very early, but also issues of domestic violence. In the urban areas, also the same problem arises. So one has got to look at how do we then, like in the work we do, how do we then ensure that issues of education, especially focusing on, young girls, young boys who work in the farms, because some of the problems are long-standing. Where, Cindy, you'd find that, this is historical, where issues of alcohol, the payment used to be in the form of, workers in the farms.
What they typically call the papsak.
Absolutely.
Yeah, or King Spinakop soap.
Absolutely.
Or Mampur.
Yeah.
I can go on and on, but you're quite right. That's how
so it's more historical. It's more historical, but also to find that issues of poverty, issues of inequality, and our office was saying that our public education are involved in issues of where cases don't go to court. If they go to court, people have forgotten issues of protection orders. All of these things have a bearing, Cindy, on issues of violence, on issues of alcohol abuse and misuse in the province.
Actually, maybe you can take us into your confidence in terms of what the Western Cape government is doing in their spatial planning in integrating communities, because I can tell you without any fear of contradiction, having seen my uncles growing up being arrested in and out of jail, substance abuse, dropping out of school, etc., that it almost becomes an exception when you make it out of that kind of community. What is being discussed to ensure that these communities are not necessarily left to fester in the way that they have, but also integrate them into the broader society? Hi, Ashley?
Yes.
I was saying, is there any spatial planning that is being done to integrate communities of different income levels, for example, and have more opportunities for children who are in these peripheral areas?
Yeah, there is what is now just been implemented as a pilot program, the development of the alcohol game changer, which is now focusing on a select number of communities. But what they're wanting to do is to be able to showcase how social interaction or positive engagement with NPOs that are providing other services related to support services to the alcohol and substance treatment programs that we offer as another avenue to assist those who are struggling with alcohol abuse within their home or community context.
Yeah, but I mean, there are all these sorts of regulations and frameworks, and yet we see these illegal outlets popping out all over the place. Again, in the township where I come from, in Guatemala, you see every 200 meters or so, there's somebody who is selling liquor openly, and children have access to it, or they're even told by their parents to go buy alcohol. So this is a much bigger problem than just the consumption thereof, Ashley.
No, and you are absolutely right. You hit it on the nail. The challenge is not so much the use or abuse of the substances. The big challenge in our society is the family context and the family defragmentation that is so prevalent in all communities, where young people would go to an outlet. They may not want to sell them because they are underage. They would just go to the parking in front of the outlet and give somebody a little something extra, and they will buy the alcohol for them. Adults need to realize that the planting of that seed in a young person's life to say it's okay to drink regardless of what the regulations are, they are destroying the fabric of our society by doing that.
Yeah, just stay on the line. We'll engage with Commissioner Botha. Just the levels of domestic abuse that must come into your inbox that you need to deal with, and I'm sure the extent there of the brutality based on alcohol abuse. What level of empowerment, I guess, for victims do you have? Because it's a difficult crime to investigate and to police. It's usually after the fact that authorities will know. So victim empowerment, so that they know the toxic environment that they're in is not. It's not their birthright. They deserve better.
Well, one of a basic entry point, Cindy, is about education. That's why our public education, but also the legal, unit within the commission. What it seeks to do is where you reinforce these messages that people reporting, but also you need to have empowerment programs for communities, because you can't just continue to blame without necessarily saying, but how do we then deal with the psychosocial and economic environment wherein people reside or live in? These are the conditions that we know they make it possible for violence to spread. That's why also, Cindy, the importance of engaging boys, the importance of engaging men, but also local authorities, so that you don't only rely on police enforcement, because that may be part of the solution, but that's not it would not be a panacea. You would need a multifaceted approach where it is a social development, where you would have the health department, where you'd have all other departments, but the commission coming in providing and working with your UNICEF in terms of education.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, we lost Ben in Cape Town. They lost his patience, but stay listening nonetheless. Ashley, when we were growing up, I suppose one could say, there's the 21st century different kind of dynamics and challenges that young people face. But the fact of the matter, if you were seen even holding a boy's hand, then it would be completely unacceptable, let alone binge drinking in public. Today, it's not as unpalatable. It is something that we see on a regular, and seemingly parents and authorities alike are losing the battle. What is your view?
Yeah, I'm probably the eternal optimist. Yes, we are in many respects losing ground, and our social platforms are encouraging a kind of lifestyle that you say, it's become palatable, and most people feel it's almost a norm. So why confront it, or why challenge it? I'm of the opinion that the more voices we have out there that can stand up for the kind of life that we are really able to enjoy or encounter, is what we need to start communicating to our young people. Our current non-profit organizations are working tirelessly to try and bring this picture about the social development officers is coming alongside NGOs like ourselves, and they are providing finances so that we can get out and assist those that are struggling with these kind of diseases.
Yeah.
So I would say, yes, we may seem to be losing ground, but I do not want us ever to give up or to lose focus of the mandate that we have to help young people to see that they have opportunities in life that is far beyond and show them pictures of men and women that have excelled, in sport, in academia, in performance or in art, so that they can see that they too can become someone other than what the social context dictates to them.
Now, Commissioner Botha, what is the responsibility of corporate South Africa, primarily the manufacturers and distributors of alcoholic beverages, in ensuring that there's sufficient support and recreational facilities around young people, albeit that there's access to alcohol?
Well, I think, Cindy, it's important for them to put their money where their mouth is, so that whilst it's important to invest in sports activities, but I think we must see more of corporate wealth, coming in, especially in those that manufacture alcohol, in different communities that have huge challenges where there is absence of recreational facilities. It can't just be correct that it is a government's call, whilst government is a duty bearer. But I know, or you and I know, that those that produce alcohol, it can't just be that a social responsibility is to sponsor sports, there and there, but without creating, a huge pool of investment in the areas they operate. Because doing so, it would be like, you are leaving people to their own devices. So, Cindy, it's important for us to say that, your SAB, your all other, alcohol producing, they have a responsibility to also even assist in educational programs. Whilst the social development does a lot of good work, how do they as manufacturers, corporate world, come to the party, literally speaking, so that they assist government programs and initiatives? Yeah.
All right, I'm afraid we don't have as much time as I would have liked, but it's still early on in the year, and it's something that we will be watching very closely. We really appreciate you coming in studio and the effort of engaging us as well. A pleasure.